On this episode of Travels with Bill, we're in Togo, Saskatchewan. Now, it may look like a nice Saskatchewan community. Well, it is, but check out the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. See that? Looks a little weird, doesn't it? Well, here it is up close. We're here to look at the Togo Stone House. This video, well, the topic at least, recommended by one of our biggest fans on Travels with Bill. And you know what? He was right. This was a place that is worth coming to. Togo, Saskatchewan is located, well, just right near the Manitoba border, really, kind of in between Roblin, Manitoba and Kamsack, Saskatchewan. The drive through the area is very nice. There's some good scenery, but of course the house is probably the best part of that drive. You have to drive into Togo to see it, but well worth going there. Now, you may be wondering, what exactly is the story with this house? Well, we're not entirely sure either, but we'll tell you what we do know, and then we're going to show you a little bit of why it looks the way it does. And maybe when you're thinking to yourself, this guy didn't have any idea what he was doing when he built this thing, I think when you're done the video, you're going to find out this guy is smarter than you knew, and he was building this absolutely the correct way. The only trouble is, it's not yet finished. Now, it's not just a house, there's also a garage that's under construction here. Now, these have been under construction for a while, and work has kind of stopped. You could tell that by the look of the wood. Well, certainly, there were some dreams here of what was going to be amazing. And I'm going to give you some idea of what that amazing would have looked like. We're going to look at some other houses that would have been built this same way, so you get your mind around what this should have been before it kind of got, well, at least for now, abandoned. I wonder, though, how many houses could you build partway, not quite finish the roof on, and come back years later, and they'd still be standing perfectly ready? Well, that's a testament to the amazing engineering going on here and the amount of work done to it as well. Just think about how hard that was. You didn't go to the lumber store and buy this. This was built stone by stone, brick by brick, to make it absolutely amazing. And you'll have to agree, you probably couldn't do this yourself. I know I couldn't do this, so the people that did need to be commended for the amount of work they did here and how close they've come to having it perfectly done. Before we go any further, let's give you some warnings, though. You shouldn't go in. Obviously, that used to say extreme danger, and the weather has taken its toll. Going in this house isn't a great idea. It's an active construction site, even though it's been sitting here for a little while. So if you come and look, certainly please don't walk in there. We don't want to see you getting hurt. Not that it would fall, I don't think, but you could certainly trip and hurt yourself on some of the construction materials that are there waiting to be used. This, of course, the inside of the house, but let's skip over to the garage for a moment. I want to show you some neat things about how this has been built. Not a lot of rebar here. This is all made, well, very carefully, using a lot of older techniques that work well. See these arches for the garage doors? Of course, the idea would be you could put your car in there, right? But instead of having, like a metal piece above to hold up those stones, they're using the arch concept to support the weight of it. They've got two doors here that would eventually be all finished out into a garage. See the bottles in the wall there as well? That's kind of cool. And just look at all the stones there are. I can't imagine finding that many stones. And then the process of piecing them together one at a time to make these walls, it's just beyond belief to me that someone took the time to do this and did such an incredible job of it. If you look at the back of the garage here, you can see the supplies where they've been making this stuff. The buckets, of course, wheelbarrows to mix in. There's even some of the molds in the back where they made these different arches and such to support. Now, the inside of the garage doesn't have the stones on it. It's more of a concrete construction in there, but then lined with stones on the outside. Coming back from the garage to the house, you can just get a view of what this would look like all finished. It would be the talk of the town. In fact, it's the talk of the town already. It draws a lot of people here to see the unfinished house and how great it looks. Maybe you're, well, kind of thinking what I thought the first time I saw it. What's up with that roof? Well, it's pretty cool what's up there. It really looks like some hens and chickens. Maybe those are ducks walking along the top. But okay, seriously, the ultimate question. How was this roof supposed to work? Because you look at this, you think to yourself, there's no way that was really going to be a roof, right? It looks nothing like the roof you have on your house. At least I bet it looks nothing like your roof. And I thought to myself, there's no way that would hold water. Couldn't keep the snow out, couldn't keep the heat in. What was the point of doing all this? They'd have to take that all off and buy some rafters. Well, then I realized how silly I was. This was meant to be a thatched roof. And once you realize that, you realize the people who built this house knew exactly what they were doing and had a complete plan of how to finish it off and live here like kings in a castle, as it were. Here's a little peek at what that roof was looking like on the garage too. It's not finished yet either, and it's not constructed quite as much as the other one. Now I don't know if they were going to thatch that. It's pretty flat. Maybe they had a different plan, but certainly the main house, well, that was meant to be a thatched roof. And you say to yourself, but Bill, how could that be a thatched roof? How do those even work? And so we must pause for a moment and investigate roof thatching. So let's go grab some video off of YouTube. These are some folks re-thatching a roof. And we'll just watch how they do this for a little bit. Obviously, they've got the bundles of reeds there. They're just putting one in. They're about to cut it. And then, of course, they will make it look like a roof. If you've never seen a thatched roof before up close, the best place I know is in Assiniboine Park in Winnipeg. They have a roof that's thatched. They're a little hut in the park. Certainly worth going to see. You can look at it. Well, you can see how this guy's obviously an expert at doing this. My first time would look nothing like that. But he's going to lay it all out, and the roof is going to end up looking thatched. And a thatched roof does some amazing things. It keeps the water off. Of course, the snow comes off it too. And it's incredibly good at insulating. And how do you start a thatched roof like this long before you have the thatches on and it looks quite like that? Well, let's show you. You probably start to recognize something here.
If you're thatching a brand new house with a new roof, you literally tie in your eave wads, which is your bottom here. Well, then you've got these steel rods that come through on each course, and they're screwed to each rafter, and then that's tightened down to fix it. If you were thatching an existing thatched property, you would just take off the top layer and you would have probably a foot or more of old underbed, what we call. And as long as that's firm, you then, instead of the steel rod for the timber wear, you would then use these to spar into the old existing thatch.
That's Dickie Wright. His family has thatched roofs for years, but did you see in the background there how the roof itself was fairly open? Well, it certainly reminds you of something we've been looking at. Now, the only difference, of course, is there's a lot more to this roof. Well, if you imagine how much snow we get in Saskatchewan, you might be thinking, of course, you'd put extra pieces under it, and then you just put the thatch on top. Well, I think that explains what we're seeing here. A roof that was very, very well built, so it would certainly take the snow load, it would never fall in, but was ready for thatching to go on, and of course would be good forever. Those thatched roofs, by the way, last quite a while, and when they do need to be replaced, they only replace the top layer, as we heard him talking about, and then they carry on along. They're really good, and they insulate really well too. Well, speaking of insulation, that brings up the next big question about the house. When you look inside, you certainly don't see anything that looks a lot like it was ready to be insulated. So riddle me this, Batman, how do you keep the house warm? Well, you start with a big fireplace. Now, we don't know what's in those walls. Certainly there's stone on both sides, but you can see from the way the stone looks, there may be a little more to it. In fact, in one spot there, you see some cement in there too. It could well be there is some insulation inside the walls. We just don't know. But even if there isn't, well, castles didn't have insulation either. The trick to keep a castle warm was to have a big, big fire and make lots of heat. Well, there's the huge fireplace to do just that. With enough fire, you certainly could keep the place warm. Stone absorbs heat, so it stays warm for a while. The trick, though, is getting it warm and keeping it warm, because it's not the best insulator in the world. It wouldn't surprise me to find out there might be some styrofoam hiding in there to make it a little better, but even if there isn't, it would be possible, with a big wood pile, to stay warm all winter. Well, I think once we understand the roof, we understand the idea of how they're going to heat it, we can just look back at the beauty of the amazing work they did here on this house. I wish they were living in it already, because that would be kind of cool, right? Proof of concept that it was going to work just fine. I think, though, about all the other stone structures we've seen in the world and how long they last, this house could well be here longer than Togo itself, although hopefully that's not the case. We want Togo to stick around too. But the house, absolutely immaculate. Every little detail of it good. They've even got a little spot out here in the back. Now, I don't know what exactly they're doing here, but I'm willing to bet they were busy working on the house and had the little roof there so they could eat at the table and maybe even do some more prep work as they continued on building. But seriously, even that picnic table's built better than anything I could build. They did an amazing job here. Want to give you a quick close-up of those walls in the garage. See how they've got the bottles worked into them too? That is so neat to me how they're in there. Oh, they would make quite a little thing. Wait a minute, did you notice what it is? If we pull out here a little bit, it's in the shape of a heart. Oh, the house has heart. Well, I guess the garage has heart there. See it? It's a heart made out of bottles. Well, the ultimate question, what will become of this house? I suppose we just don't know yet, do we? Only time will tell. Certainly a lot of the construction work's done already. Will the folks come back and finish it off? Will somebody else finish it? Or will it stay like this, a roadside attraction partway done? I guess the only thing we can do is wait a couple of years and see what it looks like then. A couple more things on the video yet, but before we get to that, have you subscribed to Travels with Bill yet? Hit that subscribe button. Check the thumbs up as well. You'll help share the videos to other people. And of course, you'll see every time we visit someplace new and interesting as we travel around Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and indeed Canada itself. We are in Togo, Saskatchewan. Rail line still goes through here. Elevators, not so much, except they've made this cute little display just in the downtown of all the elevators that once stood on this spot. Had to include it in the video because it's so cool. You can see the rail line there off in the background, so we even get our train into this video. Maybe it's more of an elevator, but it's so cool. I'm glad they did this because it reminds you what used to be. Wow, imagine what the skyline looked like then. I know a few of you were kind of eagle-eyed and spotted that barn in the background of the house, so I'll give you a quick look at the barn too. It may not be long for this world because its roof's certainly not doing quite so well, but we'll take a look from the drone here just so you can see what the barn was. And of course, if it does become history, hey, at least we have some video of the barn from when it was still standing. One of those beautiful red farm barns. I like that. Now it looks like it's been used in the last little while, but obviously roof needs a little bit of help there. Many of the videos I show some of the area with the drone, and then someone says, why didn't you show my house? Well, we'll try and help you out with that a little bit here before we go. We'll take an aerial view of Togo, Saskatchewan. Beautiful town. In fact, 86 people call Togo home, at least that was the census count in 2016. Togo is only a half a mile from the Manitoba border. It's just west. You could easily walk to Manitoba on a summer night like this and, well, say you visited another province. Even though it's a little small, Togo has a post office, Lutheran church, curling and skating rink, drop-in center. Of course, a lot of farming goes on here, but there's some fishing too. It's not that far from Lake of the Prairies. Of course, people love to play their hockey. Togo was incorporated back on September 4th, 1906, but how did they come up with the name Togo? It's pretty unique, isn't it? Well, if you know your history, you might have already figured it out. Back in 1904, there was a war. Britain was allied with Japan in the war, and Japan a very popular nation throughout the British Empire. 3 towns in Saskatchewan along the CN line were named after achievements in the war. Togo, Kuroki, and Mikado all exist because of that war. Well, that certainly does it for us on this episode of Travels with Bill. One last look at Togo, one last look at the house, and then we're packing up and moving on. We'll see you on the next episode. Farewell for now from Togo, Saskatchewan, and what must be the coolest house I have ever seen. We'll see you next time.